and I'll never back down. In the middle of the ring is where I lay the smack down. Against all odds, I will always prevail. The way you step to me is like hell in a cell.
Greetings and salutations, this is Christopher Daniels. I'm talking to my main man Delzinski right now. Any video game show, any video game channel, any YouTube channel called Vintage Shizzle is indeed hashtag Daniels approved.
Yo! Alright guys, Delzinski here. Welcome to another We Talk. It's a We Talk weekend, and as per usual, I am joined by the one and the only. Yes, it's Smack Talks. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing well, man. How's you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. And we were talking about this just before we came live. It's been kind of a crazy week for wrestling. I mean, there's so much stuff going on, not just WWE, but we've got Global Force Wrestling, TNA making moves. It's just been kind of nuts.
There's been so much going on. Podcasts, documentaries, all kinds of things.
Just lost track, really. I mean, you've got to be honest. There is so much content in terms of wrestling at the moment. I know we talk about a boom period, but it kind of feels like it could be going that way.
It is. There's more and more every single week.
It's very exciting stuff when it comes to the world of wrestling. And guys, you're listening to We Talk right now. And we've got quite a good show, I think, for you today, because we're going to be talking about Monday Night Raw. We're going to be talking about Dean Ambrose entering the title picture, which I was very surprised by. Sami Zayn, that was a surprise in itself. It's a surprise week. But Sami Zayn rocking up on the main roster. I thought Bret Hart was going to lace up the boots, but maybe not. And then, obviously, as well, we've had an E60, which was very interesting. And Global Force Wrestling and TNA, as I said, making moves. So we've got all of that, and that's all coming today on We Talk. So, Paul, are you ready to get into this?
Let's go for it.
Cool. So, what did you think about Dean Ambrose entering the title picture? Are you a fan of this, or would you have preferred to just see it stick with the old triple threat match which was going to go down? I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, because I didn't really see Dean Ambrose jumping in there, and I don't know, I kind of still feel a little bit sorry for Roman Reigns. It feels like he's not really getting that fair shot that he kind of deserves from WrestleMania, but what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's something that come out of the blue. I thought when Kane announced that stipulation that Ambrose would be added to the match if he won, then I thought it was just a way to kind of get at Rollins and that they wouldn't actually have him win the match. But we're just kind of getting his head and just play with him a little bit. But then the outcome and him being put in the match, that comes a real big surprise. And I know last week when we had the app vote and everyone says, well, it's bound to be a triple threat match because we've seen the promotional stuff for it. So it kind of give the game away. Maybe this is just the WWE saying, well, like, don't believe everything that you see because we'll happily change it if it needs be. But in regards to Roman Reigns, I think maybe he should have had maybe a one-on-one match or something like that. I think it's a bit early to bring Ambrose in. I would have preferred them to drag this out with Reigns a bit more and then put Ambrose in the mix.
Yeah, because it's kind of like rehashing that old feud that they had, and it doesn't feel like Reigns has really had that feud yet with Rollins properly, because at the time when they originally did spark off, I think he picked up an injury. So it just feels like every time we're expecting to get Reigns versus Rollins, something kind of just drops in the middle. So Orton was there, but now Ambrose is there, and again, it's almost like, well, where does Reigns get that fair shot? Or when is he going to get that fair shot? And again, I kind of think, looking at the way that this structure's happening, and with WWE just kind of chopping and changing here and there, I really don't see a title change coming very soon.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, from here, I don't know where it's going to go, because I would expect Kane to be involved again at some point. And like I said last time, I think Kane and Rollins, to kind of put an end to what's been going on, that would be a match that would kind of make sense. But now you've got three other men in. It's where do you go from here with them three as well?
Well, it's still actually still kind of what we talked about last week with Kane. It's like he's still trying to stitch up Rollins, but he's doing what's best for business.
Yes, but I don't know. To me, I don't think it is best for business to put Ambrose in there just yet. I would rather keep the 3 former Shield members from a bigger stage and make more of it than just throw them all in together and put Randy Orton in there, because he's kind of the odd piece to this puzzle because he doesn't really fit in with them 3. Like, they've got all the history and things. It would be better to just have them 3 as the former Shield members going at it for the title, which is something I'd prefer to see on a bigger stage, like your SummerSlams or your WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really. This seems to be a classic WWE move of dropping something early when they don't need to, or rushing something. They did it with the Wyatts. I mean, they really did botch that up. I really thought that we could have had, that could have been a WrestleMania, a matchup at any point to have those 3 go in a triple threat. But, they've kind of done that to death already. And with the Shield now, it seems it's going the same way. This really, when the Shield all finally do get in the ring and go up against each other, it should be a really exciting build. And we're kind of getting it without any build now, because Ambrose is just dropped in there, and we say this most weeks, it don't really make sense.
It doesn't. I think when you think of it, Payback, it's come around so quick. It may be a case that they're a bit lazy and like they feel as though they don't really need to plan for it because it comes up so quick. They haven't got that much time to sort of build into it, so they can just kind of throw Ambrose in there, have this one off, and then build to the next pay-per-view.
The trouble is as well is Payback is almost a perfect title for Reigns versus Rollins, because surely that's what Reigns would want at this pay-per-view. Payback for WrestleMania. You cost me the championship.
It is. It's appropriately named, but everyone seems to want some payback.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to get this thing done with Kane. I'm not going to lie. I mean, how much longer? And you know what? It kind of worries me, because the longer it goes on, the more likely that this is going to be at one of the bigger pay-per-views, and I really don't think it's worth that amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that they must be sort of keeping for a certain reason. Maybe they've got like plans to have this at SummerSlam or something, and I don't really want to see it dragging on that long.
No.
And especially with like Triple H and Steph not being on Raw, I mean, they have more holidays than weeds, so it just seems that because they're not there, we're getting forced with Kane all the time, and it's dragging on so long that it's just becoming a bore, and I don't want to see that at a big event like SummerSlam.
I'm still laughing. Do you know what? I'm going to throw this out there. Do you miss Lesnar? Do you miss him yet?
Kind of, but again, I don't know when he'll be coming back. I would say SummerSlam as well. So
I think SummerSlam. It's like the tradition. Lesnar's always around that period.
Yeah, I think you only really, if he's going to be brought back, it's going to be for one of the big pay-per-views, and I think SummerSlam is the next big one that we could see him coming at.
Do you think we would get Rollins Lesnar, or do you think we would get Reigns Lesnar?
Well, we've already seen Reigns, so I don't know. Then again, maybe like triple threats and things seem to be the in thing at the minute, so maybe another triple threat where officially all 3 members are in the match this time.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just miss Lesnar. I just kind of think that I know when we talked about it in the past, even with Weeds, about the whole scenario with Lesnar, that, okay, he's like a showcase champion, and, he comes and goes, and it's not right, but it did still add that element of excitement. And I'm not knocking Seth Rollins' championship reign, but I do think that all the stuff with the authority, the kind of wishy-washiness of choosing his actual opponents now, I mean, it probably would have been better just to stick with a Randy Orton feud for a bit longer, but it doesn't feel like, again, that Rollins is getting that feud, and I actually think that feud is there, and I think it's Roman Reigns, and that feud should be going, from strength to strength, and this could be a feud that could go for quite some period of time, and then you drop Dean Ambrose in the mix. That's the way I would have done it.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
It's just, I don't know, rushed, and for no apparent reason, because I actually think WWE had some real good choices here. They could have gone down the route of Payback with Reigns, but I don't know. They've got to get Kane out of this mix soon. Got to do it. It's getting so boring, so dull. And as much as I think you said Kane's getting a bit more entertaining with his lines, but I don't know. I don't want to see him anymore.
He is getting more entertained with these lines. It's just there's too much of him on TV. Like in little segments, it's all right, but when it's constant every single week, then it just weighs you down.
Are you calling him Constant Kane?
Constant Kane. It's been everything else.
Hashtag Constant Kane. I can't even say it. So I mean, guys, let us know what you think. Do you think that it's a bit rushed to have Dean Ambrose already coming into the main event picture? And do you know what? The trouble is with it is it's not really been made clear why Dean Ambrose was the chosen one, I don't think.
I think it was reward for actually winning the match on pay-per-view.
just well done, pat on the back.
Yeah, it's only took me a year or so.
It just feels like there could be anybody. You could have done something a bit more interesting to try and narrow down who you want in that match. And as I say, it goes back to the point of what's best for business, because Kane dropping Dean Ambrose in there puts the title in real jeopardy. So,
it does, because you never know what he's going to do. Crazy lunatic.
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to have to wait and see. I personally think, and I'll throw it out there now, I don't see a title change happening anytime soon. So I think this is all just a thing for the WWE because they don't quite know what to do yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a long reign for Rollins.
Good, because we like Seth Rollins. We do.
We do, but just not with Constant Kane.
No, we don't like that, and we kind of preferred him with the curb stomp as well.
Yeah.
So can we bring that back now?
Well, I heard they're waiting for the lawsuit about concussions to finish, and that it may come back. But that was the first I heard about this lawsuit. So,
oh really?
Maybe if that goes through, okay, then we could see it back. But I don't know. I think it's highly unlikely at this point.
Don't say that. We'll see it back now.
It's not looking good.
Never mind.
He hasn't settled on a finisher either.
Well, I mean, there's so much controversy about that kind of, what do we call it? What do we want to call it? Face buster?
Yeah, kind of.
Front face DDT? I don't know what you want to call it, but I still agree with you from a couple of weeks back where we said, actually it wasn't on We Talk, it was a midweek talk. But I kind of like that. What does he call that move? That flip move that he does off the top rope. The one he went for in the triple threat match. The Phoenix Rising, or is that one?
I can't remember. I know the move you're talking about.
It looked good. Whatever that is, that looks spot on. That's the sort of move where you go, wow. So I kind of hope he goes something like that instead of the move that really didn't excite us very much.
Yeah, totally. It makes more sense going for something like that. You can hit it on anyone, so I would go for that. It gets the crowd sort of expecting something when he goes to that top rope. You know what's coming. Looks much better than that thing that he hit on Raw.
That thing. And I mean, speaking of things that were exciting, or what would get you excited, we've got to mention Sami Zayn, because Sami Zayn did indeed arrive on the main roster, much to everybody's surprise. Kind of exciting, particularly for the home crowd. They must have they did. They erupted. And not just like once, but twice, because they originally thought that Bret Hart was going to be participating.
Yeah, I couldn't quite see that.
Really? What do you mean? I think wasn't the last time he was in the ring with his Vince?
Yeah, was that WrestleMania?
You remember that? Remember how good that was?
That was an amazing match. That
freaking awesome. Loved that match.
Did it win match of the year?
It should have.
Should have.
I would have made it match of the year. I mean, just the whole, even the build was just tremendous. Oh dear.
I don't know. I think there's something about Bret Hart when he comes to the ring. It just at the minute it just seems really lackluster. Is that the word? And I don't know if they stitched him up a little, because when he was waiting for Heath coming out, he delivered the line for Heath to come out, and then he didn't, so he had to say the line again. It just seemed really awkward. I think every Bret segment lately, it's just been really awkward. He just doesn't seem to smile or anything. Just not very happy.
I just don't really know with Bret how physically fit he really is these days, or even because I know he's had lots of issues in the past, but I just never quite know what he really was like. And I mean, go back to with Vince when he had that little feud with Vince. It wasn't really little, let's be honest. But that was one of the worst ever matches, builds. I don't know. And
It was awful. I think it was just a case of Brett, like, I think he wanted to, like, do it for the fans, maybe. But looking back on it, I think if he was to watch the match back, he would probably regret doing it. Because it wasn't the Bret Hart. Like, it wouldn't be the Bret Hart he wants people to remember.
I think the thing is you do a comparison of Hogan, Vince, because I actually loved that. I thought that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Even the build to that was pretty cool. And then I kind of think they thought they'd get that same nostalgia feel with Bret and Vince, and I don't know. It was everything that went wrong with it. Was it? Did he have a cast on at the time?
Possibly.
I think he faked it, or it was like, I'm going to be 100% fit to face the old man Vince. It was like, oh no. It was just awful. It was just awful. Anyway.
Let's talk about Sami Zayn.
Let's talk about Sami Zayn. Let's talk about something that isn't awful. And I mean, obviously the crowd were absolutely hyped by it. I was very excited about it because I didn't really expect that they would just go and grab him and bring him up like that. Can I just put out there, though, because sometimes you have to put these things out there. And the problem is, with the John Cena Open Challenge, is we all know that nobody is going to beat John Cena in this Open Challenge because they keep booking the matches for the next pay-per-view. And we know he's not going to drop the belt in the time before the pay-per-view. Is this not wrong?
It is. I'm going to disagree with you. I think someone is going to win the title. Because it's a good way to get it off him. And I can see Rusev costing him the title. Because their feud isn't really about the title anymore. It's about Cena and Rusev. So getting the title out of the picture, and then still, even though this is the last match between them, supposedly, it gets the title over to someone else. And I think Cena's already raised it quite a bit. I'd prefer him to keep it and continue raising the stakes. But I think it's a smart way to pass the title on to someone else.
So who do you think's going to take it then?
Well, I would have said Sami Zayn, but obviously that's not looking like it's going to happen now with the injury. But I think the match that he put on, like the injury that he got coming into the match during his entrance, like how much bad luck is that? But then going on to put on such a great match, I think they had like a 12-minute match or so on Raw, which is kind of unheard of. Like in terms of, especially like an NXT talent coming up and getting that sort of time that they've had in NXT, where you'll get main roster superstars complain that don't get that time on TV to put on a great match. But actually having the confidence to give someone like Sami that match in his first debut on Raw, to go with John Cena for that amount of time, it really put him over. And even though the injury was a bad thing, I kind of think it helps because, you know, Sami's character in NXT going for the title and coming up against Neville and things, it was always about whether or not you could do it and sort of pushing yourself to like go for it. So the injury didn't hold him back. He still went through the whole match. He was able to get through it. Kicked out of an AA, which was surprising to see. I think he's the second person now, like with Wade Barrett also kicking out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool to see. And even though he was injured, it didn't stop him. He was still doing sort of the springboard fake that he does. The tornado DDT through the ring post.
That was awesome.
So it was amazing to see that even though he was injured, he was willing to go out there in front of his home crowd and just put everything on the line. And hopefully that hasn't just cost him and means that he's going to be out longer. Because I think the plan was that he would be on SmackDown as well, wrestling. So this was the point where they were bringing him up to the main roster. And hopefully this injury is not too bad and it doesn't keep him out long term.
It got tremendous praise, didn't it, from the WWE in general afterwards. Triple H tweeting, and so I mean, it was definitely a good thing from the WWE to do. So I mean, you think that he's going to drop the belt prior to this pay-per-view then, Cena?
I don't know, because it's come around so quick. But even if this is the last match between Rusev and Cena, like, why not custom it like afterwards? Like,
yeah, that's a good point. For me, the excitement should be that he could lose it, and I feel at this second they've not really hinted that he can. So we're getting these great matches, but how good would these matches be if you genuinely thought that someone could take the belt off him? And I just think that when they book in advance Cena Rusev 4 or whatever it is, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know. Well, that you know, it's United. Rusev wants that belt back, and I know it's not always about. It's got personal, but it kind of makes me think that is kind of still in there. If they could drop a little hint that it's not about the belt anymore, then I might be thinking, well, you know, anything can happen. But at the moment, I would have loved to have seen Sami Zayn come close and actually think to myself and believe that he could win it. It's a lot like anyone that he's faced. When we went and saw it at London and we saw Barrett, I wanted to believe that Barrett could win that match, but I couldn't.
Yeah, well, that is the thing. It kind of takes away from it. But like we just said earlier, the plan for this triple threat match, now Ambrose has been thrown in. So even though they've planned this as a US title match, don't take it for granted because anything could change.
So you're saying expect the unexpected?
I think they just like to play with your head and make sure, like, when you're thinking something's going to happen, like a Bella turning on a Bella, that's not necessarily going to happen.
That ain't never going to happen.
Never.
Never. Ever. Steal it from Jericho. But yeah, I mean, Sami Zayn arriving was great. It's not great to hear that potentially now he's injured. And where does this leave NXT? Because, you know, do you think that was maybe a bit of an undersight from WWE? Because, you know, they've got a massive match coming up on NXT, which is Zayn versus Owens, and this is now kind of blown this match to smithereens.
It has. It's thrown it all up in there. But I think in terms of the timing of it, it was a bit weird when you've got a title match because, like you've just been saying about Cena losing the US title and not being believable, then if Zayn's suddenly on the main roster, was it 2 weeks away from the NXT pay-per-view? Mm-hmm. Then it makes you think, why would he win the title at NXT when someone like Paige has come up the main roster and then be told that they had to drop the title because they couldn't then defend it on NXT?
Yeah, kind of. Don't you think, just touching on the NXT side, don't you think that the way that they've done the Zayn championship reign, if they're going to move him up now, they've kind of really not put a lot into that final piece? Because I think he should have had a credible championship reign, and I don't think he really got that. And I think everybody was looking forward to the feud between Zayn and Owens, and I think that's been sidetracked now, and they're going to fast track Zayn to the main roster, which means that you don't get a lot of closure for something that should have been so good. Yeah,
I think what it is this match with Kevin Owens, I think that was going to be like the big payoff, but it doesn't make too much sense in terms of why Sami Zayn hasn't got that title reign that we kind of expected he would get, which would be a longer one. But at the same time, because he's had so much history with Owens, and the NXT fans are more sort of indie fans and they know what's gone on with the history of them, then maybe they don't need to sort of revisit everything. They can kind of keep it a bit shorter.
Yeah, I kind of see that. I just sort of think that with Owens moving up, not Owens, whoops. With Sami Zayn moving up, that's really, I mean, it just felt like this was a bigger feud than what it should have been bigger than this. The whole arrival of Owens, the destruction, the playing on the fact that, you know, they had this friendship. They've done a hell of a good job of putting over that this was a big deal. And then they just quickly made him move up to the main roster, and at a pivotal point of when we thought that we were getting this, you know, big title match at NXT. So,
do you not think it might work out well though if Sami comes to the main roster, he accomplishes something, and then all of a sudden Kevin Owens attacks him out of nowhere, and they kind of bring this to the main roster, like not anytime soon, but like further down the line.
That's
maybe
a good
they're
point.
saving it.
That is a good point, and I would like to see that. I think that would work well to introduce Owens to the roster, because I think we touched on it maybe last week or the week before, where you know, I think we've talked about Owens, and I personally think that Owens is such a beast. It's very difficult not to just quickly slot him in the top positions in the company. I think he comes in with the respect that a lot of NXT guys don't get straight away. I think, like, if you look at Adrian Neville's in the mix, but he's not straight up there. Sami Zayn's come in, he's in the mix, I think whereas with your Kevin Owens, they'd be quite happy to just throw him into the main event because they know he's just got that credibility factor, that Brock Lesnar factor, I think is the word. So,
yeah, and I think a lot of the people that's coming up now, like your Nevilles and Sami Zayns, if they're the people that's around the sort of main event sort of scene when he comes up, then it's a lot easier to fit him in with those people where there's like some history, as opposed to trying to fit him in with an Orton or a Cena or someone like that. So I think if Sami was to accomplish something and then Owens was to come in and try and ruin it, and that would be his debut, I think that would make a lot more sense.
That would work well. I really like the idea. I really think that would be perfect to get that going and reignite the feud, and also then tie up with things like I've said, where I think that this feud deserved a longer run. So, yeah, WWE, take note. Smack Talks has called it.
Yep.
And I mean, what do you think as well of with this sort of vacancy now for a challenger? And just to touch on this area, Hideo Itami is apparently out now for like 6 months.
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be out for quite a while.
So big injury there. Don't quote me on the 6 months, but from what I've heard, it's a long period of time. And then you're kind of looking at the roster of who comes in. Obviously, the instant replacement is Finn Balor. But around that, who else would you go for? I really like Tyler Breeze, but I don't know if Tyler Breeze... Well, obviously, heel versus heel doesn't really work, but I want to see Tyler Breeze get to that sort of promised land.
Yeah, I think that's been something that we've been due for quite a while now. Like I mentioned to you before, come on, when we were talking about the E60 program, which we'll probably get to later.
Yes.
But there was a separate, I don't think this actually aired on the actual program, but it was like an ESPN extra where it was more featured on Tyler Breeze. And when you think about it, he's been in NXT and he's got over with the crowd. Like everyone seems to love him. He does well. He's good in the ring. But unlike your Nevilles and your Adam Rose, other people that's all made it the main roster, he's still in there. So I don't know if it's a case that they're sort of keeping him there just to try and make up the numbers while other people are going on, and they'll eventually move him up. But I think it's about time that he was given a chance to sort of main event and get that title and just see how he holds up before they then move him to the roster and sort of determine if his gimmick will sort of work on the main roster, which I think it will. I think it's one of the better gimmicks that would actually work on a bigger stage as opposed to just a small crowd in the NXT arena.
Do you not worry, though, with someone like that they could do what they have done with guys like Fandango and bring him up in that term? Because, again, we've talked about this before. I think that someone like Tyler Breeze has that element too. He has that persona, he has that gimmick, and he sells it perfectly. He could be a top guy, he could be a world champion if you just ensure that he stays credible. You don't just go full on with the model side, because if you do that, then you start, tippy-toeing around the Fandango route where they went down the dancer route, and he doesn't have that streak. And if you remember rightly, Fandango did beat Chris Jericho, so at that point they did want to do something right with him, and then they backtrack completely. And I worry with a Tyler Breeze is that can be a similar scenario, and I don't think he deserves that.
Yeah, I think it's all about how they sort of handle transition him to the main roster. But with Breeze, I think one thing that seems to be sort of more clear from the ESPN documentary and things is that he's one of a few people that is sort of more closely working with Triple H. So I think Triple H will have more of a say of how they actually bring up the main roster, whereas guys like the Ascension, whose main roster debut totally bombed, then I think he maybe hasn't had as much of a sort of influence as to how that's sort of happened. Because I think he's actually come out and said since that it wasn't the way that he would maybe handle them on the main roster. So I think if he's more involved with it, which he seems to be now, then I think it'll be handled a lot better and he'll get over a lot more than he would if it was sort of Vince booking it, where I think Vince would play more on sort of the model things than that. But Tyler Breeze is so strong on the mic, then I think if you give him the microphone as well and just let him cut some heel promos, I think he'll connect with the crowd and get over a lot more.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. With the E60 stuff, it was interesting, and we will talk about this shortly. It was a good way to see a different side to wrestlers and to the pro wrestling industry, pro wrestling, sports entertainment, But it was good to see the difference and the reality of it all is what I'd like to put across. But let's touch on that shortly. There's a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk. Well, we're kind of flipping back to the main roster. We're going to talk about Raw, and do you want to explain the family tree to us with Tamina and?
Well, I think it's a family forest. It's that big. It's all over the place. We've got Tamina return to the main roster, so she's now aligned herself with Naomi, and apparently the reason for this is Naomi's now married to Jey Uso, who is cousins with Tamina, so that makes Tamina Naomi's cousin-in-law. Right. I think that's right. So yeah, blood's thicker than water, basically.
So basically, this is just the family affair, which somehow has managed to enthrall the Bellas as well.
It has. I think it's a good move. I completely forgot about Tamina. She's been out that long. Fair point. It's good to have her back, and it makes sense with what they've said about the family thing. It makes more sense that way as to why they would then attack the Bellas and sort of be 2v2. So the only thing that kind of bugs us with it is if it's going to go forward with 2 versus 2, then it's going to be more tag team matches than anything. So I'd prefer to see Nikki drop the Divas title to someone else, because I don't really want to see the Divas title get pushed aside and we get stuck with all these tag matches, unless Tamina's going to be more of a bodyguard like she was with AJ, and she's just on the outside cheering for Naomi while you've got Brie on the other side cheering for Nikki. Something that you love.
I bloody love it. I do love it. Come on, Nikki! I was going to say to you, what would we do if we didn't have any more Come On Nikki chants in the WWE? I mean, it would be very disappointing. So we can't have tag matches.
Just no reason to watch, is there?
No. There's nothing there. I mean, to be honest, with that scenario, it does make a lot of sense. But as you say, again, Divas Championship. Just do you feel? I liked Nikki as the champ, but I still don't feel like we've got that sort of, how do you put it, that John Cena feel in carrying a championship. Like you feel with the United States Championship, Cena has elevated it. Cena's made it a credible belt. Nikki Bella hasn't really done it. Daniel Bryan, unfortunately, I think he would have, but injury-wise, hasn't managed to do it. But, who can do this with the Divas Championship? Who can make this belt seem worthwhile? I just don't feel like anybody puts enough focus on the championship.
Well, that's the thing. You talk about the focus being on the championship, but when the Bellas are there, the focus is on the Bellas as a 2-person team. So you don't really think of Nikki as being a singles champion. You think of them as a tag team, if that makes sense. So now that you've got another tag team on the other side of the ring, the title doesn't have the focus that it should have.
Do you like the face now?
I would prefer them heel, to be honest.
I think Nikki's a really good heel. I think she nails the hell out of it. I don't know.
I didn't mind Brie as a face, but I think she's a bad heel. But on the flip side, I don't think Nikki's a good face. I think she's better as a heel.
You just like the Brie mode entrance music. Let's be honest.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not even going to attempt to do an impression of the Brie mode entrance music.
I thought you were going to go for it there.
No chance.
That's how well clear of that.
Yeah, I know. We need someone. Weeds could do it. I think Weeds could do it. He's just got that sort of high-pitched, kind of annoying voice.
Yeah, bring it via satellite.
One day. So it's kind of good, I think, that we've got another diva back in the mix. I mean, it's not Eva Marie, so it's still disappointing, but there you go.
Well, there's the plus sides.
If you want someone to make the belt credible, she's right there.
How's she going to do that? Is she going to get a proper diva in?
She's going to put the belt in a headlock.
All right.
So, what's your problem?
No problem whatsoever.
Speechless. Speechless smack talks. Speechless smack talks.
I think the belt would probably get the better of it, to be fair.
No. Come on, nobody applies a headlock quite like Eva Marie. You know this.
I'll agree with that. I'll totally agree with that.
You've got the T-shirt to prove it.
I have?
You have. I have?
What's the T-shirt?
Wasn't it something like eat, sleep, headlock, repeat, or have I just made this up?
Ah, yes, of course.
See? Like the coach would do. So, let's just quickly touch on one other note. We kind of talked about this a bit, but let's talk about Rusev and Lana. Obviously, we talked about Rusev and the fact that John Cena's not dropping that belt. So, but, you know, Rusev and Lana, it's not looking good for these two. The romance is over. It is a romance. They like actually date in real life, I think.
They do? That was surprising.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of odd couple.
Yeah, I didn't expect it when I first heard it. I thought it was just sort of the internet rumor, but it turned out to be true.
I'm kind of looking forward to when she does drop the Russian voice, because I just think I still can't work out how WWE can make that credible in the slightest. But I'm kind of excited to just hear her speak in her normal voice, just to see what everyone the reaction to it.
Well, one thing I was thinking about was when you were asking about how they're going to drop it, didn't they do exactly the same thing with Kofi Kingston?
What?
Where
with the accent?
He had the Jamaican accent.
He still got it. Was
it Kofi? There was someone where they had the accent and then they went backstage and you were suddenly talking normal and they just picked it out and he's like, it was basically because he was from Jamaica. That was why he was putting on the accent. And then at that point, they just dropped the accent altogether. Am I imagining that?
Are you thinking about Cool Runnings?
No.
No?
It's an amazing film. I'm thinking about it now. I kind of want to watch it.
Jamaica have a bobsleigh team.
You're making it crazy.
I mean, are we sure we're talking about Kofi Kingston here?
I'm pretty sure that was Kofi. It was a couple of years ago.
We have to put this to the We Talkers. I mean, so did Kofi Kingston drop his Jamaican accent?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna have to have a look for this on YouTube. But yeah, he had the Jamaican accent. It was a backstage segment in the locker room, and he suddenly sort of forgot to put the Jamaican accent on. So like whoever he was talking to then asked him what happened to his accent, and from that point they just dropped it, and that was the whole thing.
So don't you think he still got it?
Not like he used to, providing it's Kofi. And I'm not just thinking of someone completely different.
You have to let us know by the comment section below. What's happened to Kofi Kingston's accent? That is the talk of today. So, I mean, back to Lana. I mean, what? So but they can't do that. I hate it when they do that. It's the most annoying thing that they do when they do that. Oh, it never happened. You know, you can't just breeze past something like this. This is quite a big deal, you know.
It is, but it's a sticking point. Like we talked about it last week, and we couldn't actually like decide on how they would actually go about it. It's got to be something like she's pretending to be Russian or something to get close to Rusev, who's Bulgarian. So why is she pretending to be Russian? It makes no sense. But that is WWE in a nutshell.
Yeah, it really is. There's not a lot else you can say to that, to be perfectly honest, when you put it that way. But, I mean, how long do you see it going with these two in terms of the split? Because I think WWE are fast-tracking this. I don't think it's necessary. I think that they could have gone a little bit, laid off a little bit. I don't really get the whole split, to be honest. I think we said it last week or the week before again. Well, some week we said it, but I don't really think that Lana needs to be removed from Rusev. I think it's a big loss to Rusev, but I reckon we might see this, within the month.
Well, like you've said a couple of times tonight, that everything seems to be getting done so fast, and with Payback coming up so fast, then there's a chance that they could sort of further this sort of split angle in time for Payback, so it happens at the event. Maybe sort of Lana has enough and she costs Rusev this match against John Cena. But at the same time, I would prefer to see this dragged on a little longer, because it's like I said the other week when I mentioned Sable and Mark Merrow, and it seems to be going down that same route. So the crowd now seem to be getting right behind Lana, and especially with her Fandango and things on Raw, while the crowd were totally behind that, Rusev then come out and got jealous, sent at the back, and I think that's something that we'll probably see continue. So it then gets to the tipping point, and Lana has enough. But I just think Payback's come around a little bit too quickly, that they're either going to hurry up and try and get through this and split them up, which I think would be a bad choice to do, because it would be better and it would mean more if they sort of just held it on to the next pay-per-view. But even just splitting them up, it kind of limits Rusev, because we don't really get too much of him on the mic, and he's not great on the mic. He's better off when he's got Lana there doing it for him.
I think Lana's just a really good heel. That's the trouble. That's the thing that kind of annoys me. I don't know even if you've seen her Instagram, but it's her face. She just pulls these like ridiculous, when she just looks unimpressed. And you're not going to be able to get those sort of reactions if she's a face. She's just going to be all smiley and happy and just standardised diva. And I think she's better than that. So I don't know. Are we expecting that like she could obviously cost Rusev and join Cena?
Well,
and the accent comes through,
Yeah, he could teach her like rapping, and then from there, like she could develop an American accent.
She could also develop a 5 moveset as well while she's at it and become the all-round total diva.
There you go. That's all she needs.
That's all she needs.
Don't think Nikki will be happy.
Nikki might have 6 moves.
Well, they can put the title on the line then. 2 of them, singles match.
I'm still interested to see her actually go and have a match, because she's kind of an unknown. We don't really know. We don't really know what we're gonna get. So
it's going to be interesting just to see what happens with her. I mean, if they've got plans for both Lana and Rusev in the long term, and they're not just rushing this through without a sort of outcome for it and a plan for both of them, then I think it's a bad move. But if they've got something planned, then maybe we'll end up better off than we are now.
I hope so, because I hope they don't ruin this, because you know what it's like when they rush things. We've seen it with the Ascension. Rubish. I think that's all we have to say on that. But
yeah, it's attention.
Yeah, it's just worrying when they try and fast track it. 9 times out of 10, it's not in the benefit of the superstar or the diva. It's usually just in the benefit of WWE just wanting to get something done and dusted, so they can probably push one of them and then the other one kind of falls behind. But I mean, I'm hearing that Vince is high on Lana, so you've got to think that they've got a plan. So fingers crossed.
Well, when you think about when AJ was like really like over and things, and they realised that she was getting like such a big reaction, they suddenly like put her as the GM of Raw. So maybe it's like a similar thing with Lana. They're realising she's getting such a great reaction and things, and they want to sort of elevate her a bit more. So we could see her in sort of a position of power or something like that.
I watched some old clips when she was aligned with Dolph Ziggler and Big E, and I really thought that period of time, Ziggler, her, and Big E were doing some great stuff. It feels like, I still think Ziggler's kind of lost out there a little bit, and I kind of missed that Ziggler was a good heel.
He was. I think the 3 of them worked really well together, and you could tell that they're all friends sort of backstage and things. You would see signs and stuff where it was like AJ and Big E, and they seem to have like a really good relationship, and I think that transitioned to actually TV as well.
Yeah, there's a few things I think that WWE kind of don't. If you look back at some of the things, maybe we should do a We Talk about some of the things that maybe WWE have missed a trick on, or things that we wish could have stayed around. Because I also was looking at Daniel Bryan. I think Daniel Bryan was an awesome heel. I loved the whole the Daniel Bryan with the no, and I was watching clips of him and Jericho. And as they were a tag team, and Daniel Bryan would do the yes, and Jericho would do the never ever, and it was just, I just thought to myself, I don't know if we're ever going to get to see that Daniel Bryan ever again, because he's becoming like that Cena-fied character that they love. They want to mould him to become another guy that everybody's got to like, and I really like the heel Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I was a big fan of heel Daniel Bryan, but like you say, he's so over with like the little kids and they're really behind him. Then it's that Cena situation where if they turn him, then that's the hero then becoming a heel. And I'm sure like all the T-shirts and things he sells at the same time, I'm sure that plays a big part in whether he's heel or face.
But I'm going to buy all the T-shirts. All the heel ones. I'll buy them all. There you go. That fixes the issue. I just buy all the T-shirts that all them little kids would be buying. Fixed.
There you go. That's it sorted. I'm sure you'll turn heel if you buy the T-shirts.
Right. So it's agreed. Daniel Bryan is going to turn heel. You heard it here first. Perfect timing as well. He's away at the moment, so he can, repackage himself, buy a new outfit, buy a new jacket.
Yeah, well, he'll turn heel while he's away, and then you return as a face.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So, I mean, we kind of covered a bit of Raw. We kind of talked a bit about NXT, talked a bit about Kevin Owens. We did talk about this, so we'll talk about a bit more. The E60, really interesting, I thought, the way I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I liked that you got to see a different side to characters or gimmicks or superstars, whatever you want to call it. I like that you got to see the realism of it all, and particularly Adam Rose or Leo Kruger, however you want to reference, because he's received a fair amount of heat since moving up to the main roster. He's taken quite a lot of flack from the fans, not because of him as an in-ring performer. I think it's just because of the gimmick. And then you got to see this, and it kind of opens your eyes a bit to, is it all necessary? Because you look at the things that he's going through behind the scenes and, how he's come up. And I think these sort of shows, and this is what I liked about him, makes you maybe take a step back from the whole showcase of it all and maybe then respect what these guys are going through to get to what they've got to do.
Yeah, it does. It really opens your eyes and just shows you another side of the superstars that you see on TV and just the person behind that. So, like, seeing things like the struggles that they're going through and what they have to do behind the scenes to actually get to the WWE and make the main roster, and then how they have to cope with family and things, because Adam Rose, he also had a child that was born at the time, and the child had complications, which made it really hard for him. So it wasn't just about making it the WWE. One thing that comes across when he was speaking is that, he has to do this because he's doing it for his family's future. And if he fails, then that means that his family's then sort of not going to have that financial sort of benefits to go ahead and sort of be able to just live a normal life and get through the complications and deal with that, the operations, pay for them. So it all kinds of rides on him. It just shows all the pressure that he was under to make it. And when you see sort of the documentary going through and they say to him, we think you're great in the ring, but you're not really connecting with the crowd on the level that we think you are, and we want you to go away and repackage yourself, then it must be a huge amount to undertake to actually do that and realize, I've got to come up with something that's going to be good and connect with the crowd. Otherwise, that's it for me. My dream's over and I'm letting my whole family down.
Did you think it was warranted to repackage him? Did you think that the Leo Kruger gimmick wouldn't have cut it on the main roster?
I think so. I think the Adam Rose thing, it works in the short term. I think like he could stick with that for a while. But I think they mentioned in the documentary that he's 35 or so. Mm-hmm. So even if he'd stuck with like Leo Kruger, he wasn't someone that was going to come up and be sort of your next world heavyweight champion and sort of stay at the top for the next few years. So I think he was always sort of destined to be around the sort of mid-card and things like that. So I think the Adam Rose gimmick probably suits him more to that than the Leo Kruger would, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the trouble is though, it's that party time gimmick. I thought he came in quite well when he did actually arrive, but I think there was a few elements that they got carried away with which ruined it, like the bunny and stuff. I mean, if you just kept with the whole thing that he's, party time guy and then drops in a few more, like a bit of that mean streak like I've mentioned in the past, I think he could have done really well. I think the reason why everyone doesn't like him so much is because they can't take him seriously at all. And I think to myself, he gets a lot of stick, but I wonder what it feels like for him, because his Leo Kruger character was very different to what that is now. Do you reckon that annoys him?
Possibly. It kind of depends on what he was wanting to achieve when he got the main roster. Because I think with Leo Kruger, there's more you could achieve in terms of championships and things. Whereas Adam Rose, you're always going to be that mid-card guy. So that might be frustrating to see from that point. But then, again, I think something like that, if you take Santino, he was never, with that gimmick, he's never going to be a world champion and things. But he's got that longevity where he can sort of stay around and just be that sort of comedy guy and do sort of mid-card things now and again. So Adam Rose is more sort of situated for that. He can stick around and do like different things. Where a Leo Kruger, if he failed going for like a belt or something like that, he hasn't really got anything to sort of keep him around. So he'd be more prone to a release, in my opinion. So I think maybe long term for the guy himself, I think Adam Rose suits him better.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think as well, the whole E60 thing made it like abundantly clear that, you know, just because he portrays this character, there's nothing like the person. And I think that's what hopefully a lot of fans will learn from watching this show is, you know, yeah, you can boo guys and stuff. That's fine. You know, we all chant things like John Cena sucks and stuff. But you still got to have that element of respect, and I feel that sometimes with guys like Adam Rose, I've watched commentaries. I'm not shooting, but I'm just saying, I've watched commentaries where people are just knobs. Let's be honest, people are just knobbish about things like Adam Rose. Like they'll just like go out and just absolutely abuse him as a person, and I just think that's just so stupid. I don't like that at all.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people will do that, but there'll be other people where they've done that in the past, and then they'll watch something like this, and they'll realise like the person behind it's nothing like the gimmick.
Yeah.
And they'll realise the struggles that he's going through. And like me watching this, I kind of want him to do well. I mean, he's never going to be the next big thing or anything, but at the same time, I want to see him sort of staying on the roster so he can actually like achieve something and sort of feel as though he is achieving and doing well for his family.
Yeah, you just want him to be, you know, you just want him to I think you just want him to be there and, you know, see out the course, because you feel like his family and everything deserve that after watching the E60.
Yeah, and seeing all the work that he's put in, and like when you see someone that's so dedicated and they're putting so much into something, you want to see them get something out of it as a reward. And one other person that was kind of highly featured in that documentary was Corey Graves.
Yep.
And it must be really bad for someone like Corey Graves, because there was a point in the interview where, in the documentary, where they were in the boardroom with Triple H and all the NXT guys, Michael Cole and other people, and all said that Corey Graves was a priority and that he would be the next guy. So that was like 2013, I think it was, or the start of 2014. So they did mention that he'd had concussions in the past, and Graves spoke himself about the injuries that he's had coming up and how he's suffered multiple concussions. And it got to the point where they thought he was going to be getting called up to the main roster and it was going to be his time. But then he suffered a concussion. He was out for months, not allowed to wrestle. He come back doing the impact test. And again, they got to a point where they thought he would be going up the main roster and he suffered another concussion. And then eventually it got to the point where they says, look, we think your health's actually at risk because of all these concussions. And because of that, we're disqualifying you from being an active competitor in the WWE. But then again, something like that, if it was a normal person outside the WWE and they'd been told that, then it kind of leaves them at a point where that's something that they've done all their life and they've got nothing else to move on to. So the good thing here with Corey Graves is that someone like a Triple H has realised just how much effort and how much work he's put in. And because he's so dedicated to wrestling and the WWE, he's actually given that reward of giving him that position as a commentator. So I think that's really cool from Triple H, just to sort of see how much someone's struggling with being told that they can't actually make it.
Yeah, I think Triple H has got a great investment with the NXT guys. He really does appreciate everything that they do, and he sees what they do on a week by week basis. I've seen I was watching the Warrior DVD, and he's got in his office. He's got he's got the Performance Center hooked up to his office. It's like he's keeping an eye on it. It's Hawkeye all the time, and because he is so enthralled by that that brand. I think it almost feels like it's a family. So. He watches out for these guys, and into something like Corey Graves' case, it's great to see that they did, retain him, and they didn't just, send him to the Wolves, and they've supported him, and I'm glad because I think he's developing into a really good commentator as well.
Yeah, I think it's someone that he's been thrown in the position now, sort of without the choice because he cannot wrestle. So, as someone that loves the business and wants to be involved in it. It makes sense to have him on the commentary team. And fair enough, he's starting out in that position from scratch, so he's got to learn his trade. It's going to take him some time, but I think he's on the right track. He's doing a good job. I think he's only going to get better.
And I've got to say as well, I've got the same thought sense with him because, he's like proper high on Carmella in NXT.
Right.
Thumbs up for that.
Cool.
She's like on point. How you doing? All that sort of stuff. And
I don't think I've seen too much of it in NXT.
Look, you can't teach that. That's all I'm saying.
I was going to say, is it the one that's aligned with Enzo Amore?
Yeah, and I'm just think Enzo Amore is just beast. When we talk about these characters and stuff, I mean, and the gimmicks, and whether gimmicks can fly and they can't, but I mean, Big Cass and Enzo Amore are just like gold. They've got the catchphrases, they got everything, and then they've got like Carmella, who's quite hot, and they've kind of thrown her in, and no one really likes her. They kind of boo her on and off, but it's just a mix. It's just like that. That's when you look at a gimmick and you think you got this one spot on.
Well, I could see them coming to the main roster and being like a crime time.
They kind of, do you know what? They kind of remind me a little bit as well. You're right, kind of like an FBI as well.
Yeah,
it's just kind of perfect. It's like I just love Enzo Amore's voice and everything. It's just got. When he talks, you listen because you just kind of expect something brilliant to come out of his mouth, hilarious. But they're the sort of guys I like. They're sort of characters that I think will come up and they can succeed and they can do really well. Do you remember Simon Dean?
Yeah.
Did you like Simon Dean?
Was that the one that had the scooter?
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of Simon Dean.
How could you not like Simon Dean? The Simon System.
Yeah, no.
What do you mean? Yeah, nah. The Simon System. Remember the Simon System? No.
See, to be honest, I didn't watch too much of him because I think he was on the SmackDown brand, wasn't he?
He was awesome. He used to be Nova from ECW.
Yeah.
And then he just became Simon Dean, who was like obsessed with fitness, and he had that segment with the Boogeyman as well. He's just wicked.
I was never a big fan of him in WWE. I never really watched too much SmackDown. I was always watching Raw. Because of the brand split, I think that was something that really sort of messed things up because I was so into watching both shows, and then I kind of just stuck with the one that had the more superstars I liked. So I kind of missed a lot of superstars like Simon Dean.
Look, your homework for this week is to go and watch some Simon Dean.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Do it now.
Next week,
you got to come back.
Simon Dean.
Full report. The whole week talks about Simon Dean.
Yeah, I'll enroll in the Simon system.
I think we'll be definitely getting like 100,000 views on this video if that's next week.
That's gold.
That's gold. So yeah, I mean the E60 was getting back to the serious side. It was very good. I like it. I hope WWE look to do more of this. I always I do my DVD reviews and I do praise WWE for doing their documentaries. A lot of the time they are fantastic. When you get to actually go behind the scenes and understand the superstar more. They've done it well with the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man. Batista's is good as well. I think you've got to give them a lot of props with these sort of things because it is really interesting. It's a different side to the industry.
Yeah, I love seeing anything like this. I think it just adds so much when you see it from a different perspective as to what you're seeing every single week on TV. You learn so much about what goes on behind the scenes, and I think you appreciate it a lot more.
You do. Totally, 100%. And speaking of appreciating things, a lot of people were wanting to appreciate this, but the Global Force Wrestling roster was released. Is it really a roster? I don't know. I don't have the full listing, but off the top of my head, I'll throw out some names. We had 2 members of the Bullet Club, I think. I think we had Gallows and Anderson. We had Sonada, formerly TNA. Interesting. I mean, his contract just expired with TNA. He went back to Wrestle One, and now he's in Global Force Wrestling as well. Chris Masters, I've seen him in the UK. I think Chris Masters is still pretty good, to be honest. Who else did we have in there?
Well, I'm just not going to list the names, and there's only like 11 people. Yeah,
it's not big. It's not big, and there's no standout guy. You would not say from that list there's a guy that you'd say is the one. So I'm kind of hoping or expecting that Jeff Jarrett is going to announce a few more, and I would like to expect that AJ Styles will be in that mix.
Yeah, I think Styles was someone that I was really expecting would be associated with it. So that was a big surprise not seeing him listed.
Well, the entire Bullet Club would have been a good move, but I mean, Young Bucks, you got those guys there. But it feels like, maybe can't negotiate that deal. Maybe some of them are tied into contracts with New Japan. I don't know how it works. Some have rolling contracts. But yeah, it's the start of something. But how far can it go? And it kind of brings us into the other. So we're going to kind of duck in and out of topics here in our sort of final bit of We Talk. But it kind of then contrasts with what TNA have done, because TNA have made I kind of say it's a big move. I think it's a big move. It had a lot of media attention. And they brought in, I think this is how you say it, because I'm not exactly your biggest sort of Rocky fan, whatever.
Rocky fan?
I like the Rocky films, but this has got nothing to do with it. I think it's Billy Corgan. I think I'm right.
Yeah.
Smashing Pumpkins, but my notes actually say Smacking Pumpkins.
That's my band.
Oh, I see. Smacking Pumpkins. You got to have that one now. But yeah, I mean, they made a big move because this guy. At first, I thought, and I think we talked about it before we came on We Talk. We kind of thought, is this just one of those flash in the pan things? Just a bit of marketing. But apparently, and well, after listening to Chris Jericho's podcast, this guy knows his stuff. I mean, he's run wrestling companies, small ones, before. He's almost been a bit of a right-hand man to Dixie Carter before. She's run past deals past him. She's negotiated and talked with him about things in TNA before. So it's almost like she's always hit him up with information. And, Jeff Jarrett also was trying to bring him into the company back in the day. So he's got a lot of investment here, and it doesn't sound like it's just a hopeful, let's just give a good example, some crap like Rampage Jackson rocking up. This sounds like this guy looks to want to do stuff and make TNA better, and he's quite invested into this product. He knows his stuff, and from what I've heard, he's on the creative team. So they've made a big move. GFW have released their roster, and that's a bit lackluster. Who do you think's kind of, because we're talking about the lower companies now, who do you think's kind of getting the push here? What do you think's the better move?
Well, to start off with JFW, I think, to me, as someone that doesn't really watch New Japan and things like that, then the majority of the list that they've released on the sort of roster, I don't think it's going to appeal to your more casual WWE fan, because a lot of them will be people that say, they were just sort of lesser names in the WWE and they didn't make it, so they went elsewhere. People like Chris Masters, trying to think who else there was, Doc Gallows, you've got Lance Archer, Davey Boy Smith Jr.
Yeah.
So they're not like huge names that made an impact in the WWE. I think Justin Gabriel's probably the biggest one. So he's been signed as PJ Black, I think it is. So he'll be on the roster. So that's one name I think people will probably look forward to seeing how he does. But overall, I think it's a bit lackluster. I would prefer to see some bigger names in there, like Samoa Joe, I think he's still a free agent at the moment.
I think so. Could be NXT bound, but you never know.
But then again, maybe it's a case of they're only listing some of these guys, and when we actually get the first show that comes up, we'll see someone like an AJ Styles rock up as a sort of surprise participant. So, I don't know, maybe that would be a good thing, But at the same time, if you're promoting your first event, your first show, then you want big names to get people to actually buy it in the first place. But then, in regards to TNA, bringing in Billy Corgan, I think, to me, as someone that didn't know he was so invested in the pro wrestling business and that he'd run past organisations before, and he'd been sort of working with Dixie and Jeff Jarrett and other people, it just sounds like that crazy TNA sort of bit of news that breaks, where it's like they've employed someone from the Smashing Pumpkins to come in and run their creative. It doesn't make too much sense until you actually learn a bit more about it, like you've told me, and the sort of history that he has. So maybe it's a good thing. He seems to be pretty knowledgeable and he's pretty clued up on the business. So I guess in time we'll just see how the sort of creative side plans out and whether or not it's a good move.
Yeah, kind of the only thing for me that I'm kind of a bit critical of is with the whole him coming in as creative is I didn't think the creative was that bad at the moment. I thought they were doing a good job. They were pushing Ethan Carter up to the topper level of the company. It felt like to me they were going in a good direction. So I don't know why they need to add him to the mix, but I'm gathering he's coming with some money, which probably is well needed for TNA. So it's going to be really interesting. It's different, and hopefully he does have maybe he will add that sort of element of showmanship to this company because they've got the wrestling right, and then they need something to take it to that next level. Maybe that's what he can do with his experience within the music industry. So it's just going to be really interesting in terms of GFW. I think it's lackluster, but I think if you look at the wrestlers that they have taken, they're all solid wrestlers. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're all decent wrestlers in the ring. So given the chance, given the opportunity to work with each other, put on a good show and just get that time to put on a long match where it tells a story, which is something that they probably didn't get the chance to do in the WWE, then maybe we'll see a different side of them. And, in regards to Billy Corgan working for TNA, if you think about the WWE, they brought in someone like Freddie Prinze Jr. to actually work with them backstage. So it's not unheard of to bring in sort of actors and other things to actually work backstage in the company.
I think TNA, from what I listened to on the Jericho podcast, the way that he's been pitched everything is they want to go down this different route. They don't want to be anything like WWE. So he is there to help do that. And I kind of look back to the Hogan Bischoff era, and I think anything that can get you as far away from what that was as possible surely can only be good because, I think that the product so far is very good. I like the wrestling. I like the matches. Storylines are good. So I hope they don't just go off the deep end. Do you know what I mean? I hope they just don't have this creative scrap and it all go up in the air. That would worry me, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think in terms of how it goes in the future, I think TNA is back on track. I know Dixie was on Austin's podcast, and she seems to be someone that, listening to us, she seems to know what they're wanting to achieve. So it's just whether or not they take the time and just really make sure that they're getting things right, and they don't just do what we've been saying the WWE have been doing and just rush things.
Yeah, I think it's about time. I think she's finally understood that she can't just hand her company to people and let them just get on with it. I think she with Jarrett, it was back and forth. Hogan and Bischoff just took the keys and ran away. I think that's maybe why she declined Paul Heyman's offer, because she thought, again, that would be a similar scenario. And now I think that she is much more invested in actually running this as a wrestling company, and she brought in people that she kind of trusts, who she thinks can just help. So I think this is why, we've got what we've got at the moment. So I'm kind of excited. I would love TNA to do well. I've watched them, from the beginning. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, they've had their money issues. Be nice to see if they can push things forward. And if GFW does well as well, only can mean good things for the wrestling business.
It can, yeah. I think the more federations that we'll have that are doing well and they're producing stars, then it's only going to make each other compete. Each company compete with each other, and that's just going to lead to a better program.
Exactly. Anything that can make the WWE product better is good for business. Best for business. Let's go with that. So yeah, that kind of brings us to the end of another We Talk. I think we covered quite a lot today, to be honest.
Wow, there's been quite a lot happening this week.
There has, and it's not just WWE. Like I say, it's all round. There is a kind of wrestling boom period going on at the moment. So yeah, really good. And we also found out that apparently Kofi Kingston was Jamaican, but then he's kind of not now.
Apparently.
So yeah,
double check it.
Are you gonna? Are you don't let that take up too much time because you've got a Simon Dean to watch as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a busy week. This.
So yeah, guys, get involved in the comment section below on all the topics we've talked about today on We Talk. There's a lot. # We Talk Weekend, and as per usual, I will hand the floor to you because I'm waiting for some sort of selfless plugs.
Well, I would say check out the Smack Talks channel because I'll be featuring some PC modded content. So the first of that will be up tomorrow. And then I actually started doing some mods. So depending on what I can come up with, and providing it's not really bad, then hopefully I'll be uploading a couple of them videos next week as well.
Is this the return of the alter ego of Smack Talks, Keyboard Warrior? Are you making that return?
Maybe. If you buy me t-shirts, maybe you'll see it.
All right, I see. I can hear the keyboard as we speak.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. I'm actually, to be honest, guys, definitely go check out whatever Smack Talks has got in store because I'm sure it's going to be pretty entertaining. That's for sure. Anything else?
No, that's it. I'm going to go buy the Simon system, and I'll catch you next week.
Nice. And just to let you guys know, obviously, later on today, Saturday, we have got Saturday Night Main Event, and it's all heating up. I don't know if you've seen it, but you need to go check out the Finn Balor promo, or Finn Balor promo, however you want to say it.
Epic promo.
He's coming. He is coming to Saturday Night Main Event. And yeah, this week it's all heating up as we move towards our second pay-per-view, which is Vengeance. So go check that out tonight, 8 p.m. UK time. And I think that's all that's left to be said is please rate, comment, and subscribe. And Smack Talks, are you going to catch us later?
Catch you later.
And this is Delzinski and Smack Talks signing out.
Hi wrestling fans and gamers, Velvet Sky here, and I just want to say I've been hearing a rumor that Delzinski.com is the best place for video gaming and wrestling content. Now if you're a wrestling fan and a hardcore gamer like myself, then I suggest you check out Delzinski.com. You will not be disappointed. Holler!